Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the Retire in BC podcast. I'm your host, Ben. I'm joined by my co host, Arnold, and we're both very excited to be starting this show together. We're going to be talking about all things about financial planning, specifically with a special emphasis on retirement planning.
That's right. Though today we just really want to introduce ourselves, give you a rundown on what this podcast is going to be all about. For my part, I've been a financial planner for almost 30 years, since 1995, and lots has changed over that time. And we anticipate that change is going to continue moving forward. But we want to just help our clients. We're committed to helping our clients, our friends, our family, and now our podcast listeners to keep up with the evolving financial landscape and share our best strategies and insights.
Yeah, so as Arnold mentioned, really just wanting to sort of chat about ourselves and the format of the show for this episode. So we are both financial planners. As Arnold mentioned, he's been doing it almost 3 decades. I've been at it a little bit less than that, but still coming up on 9 years now that I've been doing this. We run a financial advising practice
Ben, did
together.
you say five? Did you say 9 years?
9 years, yeah.
Uh, that shocks even me. I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, I mean, time flies when you're having fun, I guess. So yeah, it's shocking how quick that's gone by. But yeah, so most of our viewers, especially for the first episode, probably know us already, or if they don't, they might have tuned in just or clued in just by our last names. Uh, Ben Machel, Arnold Machel. We are a family-run practice. Arnold is my dad. And yeah, it's not just him. Actually, my mom works here too. She's the office manager. So I know not everybody would love to go work with their parents every day, day in and day out, but it works for us and I love it. So
Or with their kids.
yeah, that too. Although I'm easy to get along with. So
You are. So, Ben, on the topic of financial planners, you are not just a financial planner. Ben may not be the kind of person that would just shout this out, but he's actually educated himself well above what I have. Ben, you're actually also a CFA holder, right?
yeah. So CFA, I completed that actually pretty recently. That was within the past 2 months now that I've completed level three. CFA is the Chartered Financial Analyst program. Really a very in-depth dive into investment management. That's sort of building off the blocks of what I had started a few years ago with the CFP as well, Certified Financial Planning designation.
And we're both financial planners, or certified financial planners. And even that designation, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but I think only about a third of advisors in the industry obtain that. Maybe it's even less. So already there, we're in the upper echelons. But again, going back to you and the CFA, what is it? Something like one in 10,000 advisors gets that. Like, I mean, it's got to be a very, very small number.
Yeah, well, it's very few, and I mean, specifically, it's not just a financial planning designation. Really, a lot of people who are getting the CFA can take it in this route, but they also can take it into investment banking or portfolio management, so on and so forth. But yeah, you're correct. Very, very few advisors would also choose to take on the CFA. Usually, if they're wanting to take sort of the portfolio manager discretionary route, they take the CIM, which is still, I mean, it's a good credential to have, but the CFA is quite a bit more in depth of a program.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good on you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And sort of, yeah, on that topic too, I mean, the podcast is called the Retire in BC podcast. So we're going to be talking about, I had touched on it already, lots of things to do with retirement planning. We're going to touch on other topics as well. You can't really talk about retirement planning without ever delving into estate planning, investments, insurance, sort of all of those things really, really tie in really neatly together, in my opinion. So
And it's probably a good idea to mention to all of our listeners that we're based here in BC. Our advice is BC focused, although really it's mostly applicable across Canada. I mean, if we talk about tax rates, we're going to be talking BC tax rates are going to be a little bit different in some of the provinces. Quebec listeners probably should be a bit wary because the rules there can be a fair bit different than they are here. So, and I guess in that regard, all listeners should be wary. Don't take any of what we say as personal specific advice. You really need to make sure you're talking to your financial planner. Hopefully that's us, but your financial planner to get that advice. But maybe we can spur on some thoughts and comments.
yeah, for sure. I mean, especially, yeah, good point there about the Quebec listeners. Even something as universal as the Canada Pension Plan, they've got their own version of it. It's
Yeah,
completely
yeah, that's
different.
right.
So yeah, yeah. Good to be wary and just to be aware of your personal circumstances. We can give the best info that we can, generally speaking, about these topics, but you really want to chat with someone about your specific circumstances before acting on any of that. Uh, on that note, Arnold, you've been a financial advisor for 30 years, as you've mentioned, or just about. What got you into it? Why do you like financial advising? Why do you like working with clients, or do you? Yeah, why don't you just tell me and our listeners a little bit about sort of your story there?
Oh yeah, I hate working with clients. That's
Ah,
yeah,
I
no.
figured.
No, yeah, no, no. That's actually quite a long story, but I'll try to shorten it. Um, I started in the business about 30 years ago. Probably a year or two prior to that, yeah, probably about a year prior to that, I was reading a book called The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's a book I often recommend to people. I think it's great for anybody to read. It's an old book written by a guy named Stephen Covey. But for me, the whole book was valuable, but there was one particular chapter in there called Begin with the End in Mind. And that changed the trajectory of my life. I read it. The book, it starts off with a quick little story about two guys running up a ladder to get to the top of a building, and one guy gets up there first and finds out that oh, he's on the wrong building. And so the whole idea of beginning with the end in mind is thinking about what's important to you in life, and are you on the right ladder to get to the top of that? And I read that and I realized I was on the wrong ladder, frankly. I was a sales manager for a large distribution firm, and we distributed mostly to convenience stores and gas stations. And that meant mostly what we sold was cigarettes and candy. No disrespect to that industry, but I realized here I was. Oh, sorry. Let me back up. There's one other section to it where you're in terms of thinking about beginning with the end in mind. What's important to you at the end of the day? Figuring that out. And as I thought about my own personal mission statement, I realized it was to affect positive change in the lives of people around me. And when I thought about being responsible for, on the one hand, $100 million a year in cigarette and candy sales in BC, and on the other hand, wanting to affect positive change in the lives of people around me, I realized that's not really congruent. So I thought, well, what do I like to do? What am I good at? And for the previous 10 years, I'd been helping all my friends and family with their money, and I liked it. And so I thought, well, that's really what I should be doing. So I left a very lucrative job in the position of being one of many but considered for potential CEO material down the road. Left that the stability of that position with, at the time, a wife and three little kids to feed, none of whom were working, just me, and jumped into it. Um, our The mission of our business became to affect positive financial change in the lives of our clients, and that was specifically born out of my own personal mission statement. So that's a long story, but really that is how I got there. Ben, what about you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a long story, but a good story. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, I mean, for me, how I got into it was, I mean, you're in the business, right? And I actually had a background in engineering before I bailed on that and decided to join the family practice here. Realistically, too, I mean, more recently than that, I've been having a fair bit of a think, or just kind of realizing over time that on the one hand, like we already talked about, I've been here about a decade, or coming up on a decade here, 9 years. Through that time, not only have I done all of the formal education that you need, and then some.
And then some, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I've also, I mean, I've been cluing into the fact that I really actually like learning a lot. I've been gobbling up every personal finance course that I can get my hands on. And I just sort of clued in that, you know what, I'm actually really knowledgeable about this stuff. I actually know a significant amount that I didn't know 10 years ago. And I think a lot of people don't really know, don't really clue in, how things work. And fair enough, a lot of these are very complicated topics, some of them less complicated. Amidst that, I realized too, I mean, there's a lot of information online, some of it good, some of it not so good. And so I just sort of thought, if I can do my part to just sort of add the good content, inform people, really raise the bar of financial literacy in Canada, that's something I'm really quite interested in doing, and was uh, sort of the primary impetus for starting this podcast. And yeah, I really just want to help spread financial literacy. I'm passionate about simplifying financial topics, basically to empower our listeners and help them on their financial journeys.
Yeah, well, I gotta say it was Ben basically dragging me kicking and screaming into the 22nd century to do the podcast here, but I'm glad he did. One thing on the topic of um, all of the information available on the internet, there was a great guru in the industry that I used to pay a fair bit of attention to. Um, uh, his name escapes me now, but it'll come to me in a bit. But he always said this was back in the day when we had modems on computers. But he said every modem should come with a big warning sign that says "wisdom not included." And so what we're hoping to impart with this podcast is just that wisdom, because that is so often lacking in what you find on the internet.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, I mean, this episode primarily about introducing ourselves, introducing the format, sort of what we'll be chatting about. We are going to start with just retirement planning, generally speaking, sort of some of the main concepts about retirement, kind of about balancing your financial lifestyle or your ideal lifestyle with what is financially sustainable there.
Yeah, well, yeah, we want to talk about what retirement, just big concepts, three pillars of financial planning. I don't know if you want to talk about that today, Ben, but that's sort of one of the cores. Trying to figure out what your vision for retirement is and what path you want to get from A to B. Um, those are all things that we want to highlight for you, help you understand, and get you to a point where you can make wise investment decisions.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'll sort of touch on both of those things there really quick, and then we'll delve deeper into these topics in future episodes. But yeah, I mean the three pillars concept, that's a concept that doesn't only apply to retirement planning. There are other industries that use the three pillars concept, but basically, as it relates to financial planning and retirement planning, that's just kind of breaking down the typical sources of income in retirement. So for most people, those are going to be one or two or all three of the following. They might be getting some sort of government benefits, whether that's CPP, old age security, so on and so forth. They might be getting a work pension, and we'll again in future days chat about sort of what that might look like. And then if they don't have those two, or even if they do, you're also going to have your personal savings, personal investments, basically, given that you've got these other sources of income, how much do you need to have saved up as your nest egg to cover the rest and sort of to meet that cash flow need in retirement? And then, as you've chatted about too, there is a lot of thinking that should be done about, what do I want my retirement to actually look like? Let's not go into this totally blind without thinking about it. You probably have sort of some stories about this. I know I do, about clients who have retired, discovered they hated it, and gone right back to work. And so I think if they had done some of this homework, maybe, it just is good to think about, do I want to live in the same place that I lived while I was working, or do we want to move abroad? Do I want to work part-time? Basically, some of those things. What do I want my expenses to look like in retirement? And just sort of thinking about some of that kind of stuff so that you can lay out, where am I now? Where do I want to be? What's the path to get there?
Well, and on the subject of the three pillars, these days, fewer and fewer people are working at employers that provide pensions, and so a heavier emphasis is being made on, has to be made on personal savings, and I guess that's where we come in. It's becoming one of the more important aspects. At least government pensions give you a base, but to live comfortably, you're going to want a bunch of your own savings.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. That's definitely going on and something we'll talk about. But yeah, I mean, that was mostly it for our first episode, really just introducing ourselves and the theme here. Thanks so much for tuning in to our first episode. Next time, we are going to delve deeper into this three pillars concept, really break them down one by one. What can you expect from those government plans? What kind of work pensions might there be? And yeah, basically how much you'll need to save up on your own to cover that shortfall. Yeah.
If you found this helpful, please like this episode, share it with your friends. It could be just the push they need to start thinking about their retirement. And if you'd like to chat about your situation specifically, head over to visionvest.ca, and there's a button on there. Just click on Start a Conversation, and that will send us a note to reach out to you, and we would love to do that.
Great. Thanks. Bye, Arnold. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Catch you next time. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast may not necessarily reflect those of IPC Securities Corporation or IPC Investment Corporation. The information provided is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as financial, legal, or tax advice. The hosts and creators of this podcast assume no liability for actions taken based on the content discussed.